In today's tutorial, I want to share my tips and show you how you can map out your Saturn return. But before I go into the tutorial, I'd just like to tell you and share that I'm trying something else when it comes to technology or recording videos. And I found this app that just lets me do it all on my phone. So you'll keep seeing these little red, orange bubbles coming up when I want to pause. And I'm really excited about this because this would be perfect if this works well. Okay, so back to the tutorial. So although I say I want to show you how to map out your Saturn return, really what you're doing is, and that's the point of it all, that's the power of it all, that's the purpose of it all, is that you're mapping out transits of Saturn through your natal chart and all it's doing as it's going around your natal chart from the moment of your birth, which is your natal placement of Saturn, until it reaches that same point, usually late 20s, like 29, 28, 30, 31. It depends. So essentially, although I'm saying mapping out your Saturn return, what there really is, it's mapping out transits of Saturn through your chart. It's a journey through your chart and what it's teaching you. Now you might be wondering why I'm starting and showing you this screen of the hero's journey. So let me first tell you what a definition of hero's journey that I'm reading out from a website, blog.readz.com. It says the hero's journey is a classic story structure that's shared by stories worldwide. Coined by academic Joseph Campbell in 1949, it refers to a wide-ranging category of tales in which a character ventures out to get what they need, faces conflict, and ultimately triumphs over adversity. I will include a link to this article, particularly from that blog, for you to dive deeper into, and it's a hero's journey 101. So there is a lot of goody stuff there to get you going and thinking. But why it's connected to Saturn return and Saturn transits? So if you haven't already kind of picked up or agreed that the language I use to describe this hero's journey is kind of like Saturnian language anyway. That's at the root of it. So basically there are three stages, even though in this picture there are many, but there are kind of three essential stages that we all go on a journey of discovering who we are and what are we meant to be doing on this planet and just living our life in a meaningful way. What does that mean to us, right? We all go through this hero's journey many times, but there is this bigger arc that it's Saturnian in its flavor, in its mapping, in its steps, in its lessons, in its style, in its dynamic, in its energies, in its vibration. And it happens at least twice, like big two arcs, story arcs. And if we're lucky, I don't know, third Saturn return when it happens, 60, yeah, I may well be alive for my third Saturn return. It's 90s, late 80s, 90s, I think, early 90s age. Anyway, but the three kind of, the cornerstones, if you like, of a hero's journey in terms of the narrative, in terms of the journey itself, are separation, initiation, and return. And then the call to adventure arrives again, and then we separate, get initiated, and return. Now, so here's another Saturn word, separation. And this is something, if you listened and watched some of my videos, where I talk about separation is essential for our wholeness. It's the path to wholeness. And what I'm astrologically referring to is when 10th house, Saturn, Capricorn, needs to move into the 11th house, Aquarius, Uranus, and by extension, this trajectory is this path, this particular leg of the journey, separation, is how we become individuals. It's how we arrive at the Aquarian age, fully individuated. So in other words, at the very start of this adventure, we have Saturn as the initiator. Now, this point of initiation doesn't have to be the actual Saturn return, unless your Saturn is in the 10th house or conjunct your MC. But the call to the adventure, which happens on the 10th house MC point in your chart, so whatever you have there, when Saturn arrives at that place in your chart, is when you're called to embark on this new adventure, the new chapter of your adventurous life. And wherever Saturn enters, we are asked to separate. And that word is meant here in its multitude of nuances and meanings and flavors and variations. So the separation could be literal, or it could be just, it's always a literal in a sense, but I mean by literal, like you literally are moving away physically to another location. Or it could be separation from, okay, this is mine and this is yours, or anything else in between. So it happens at the top of your chart when Saturn reaches your chart, top of your chart, MC, no matter what you have there, no matter what sign it is, and if it's Saturn return at the same time, then that's like doubly magnificent, I was going to say. I wouldn't know because I haven't got it there, so I don't have a personal experience of how magnificent it is, or it can be, but yeah, it's certainly that call to your adventure. The call to adventure is doubly Saturnian, and you better take that call very seriously. So before I go into and show you more astrological chart than this map here, I just want to draw attention to two things here. As you can see, this normal world is the upper sphere, and then unknown. So although this is not a map, and in fact, let me show you, I turned it around. So because astrologically, what happens, we look at signs going from change, then it returns, and it ends the adventure, and then starts call to adventure again, meeting a mentor, etc. So this is not astrological, this is just the hero's journey, probably from psychological point of view or personal growth without astrology. But as you can see, this is very much an astrological chart, in the sense that it's a zodiac circle. But more to the point, like I say, I just wanted to point out the normal world and the unknown are below the horizon, and this is the ascendant descendant axis, which I'll show you more properly in the actual astrological chart. And I turned it around just to show you how when we reverse it or turn it around or whatever the expression is, we actually can see how it's going the way the Saturn goes. So it will have reached the map, the point here at the top, and then it would go to the left, my left, and your left as you're watching this, down to the ascendant, and then down to the IC, and back to the 7th house, and then back to the 10th again. So let me show you I'm now just, okay, this is the one. So this is from Erin Sullivan's book, Saturn in Transit, Boundaries of Mind, Body and Soul. This is your Bible. This is not, if you do nothing else in astrology, even if you don't want to bother with Pluto, although I would highly recommend that too, but really you want to master your Saturn, you want to get that book. That is one book you must not have. If you want to use astrology wisely and really richly to inform your life, to inform your self-knowledge, to support your own hero's journey, you want Erin Sullivan's book, Saturn in Transit, Boundaries of Mind, Body and Soul. And I'll jot that down in the description as well, although it's on a couple of my other videos, but still. So this is from her book. She has a couple of lovely illustrations that I'll possibly use here. I'll definitely use this one. So as you can see, she's obviously being the astrologer. She talks about, this is a Saturn in Transit book, so it talks about Saturn, and it's going in the right direction. So, and it's essentially, she's also talking about Joseph Campbell and the myth, the hero's journey, basically, and she uses that model to show how Saturn moves around your chart. But I'll talk in a moment why that is. Not why she does it. I'm not going to reference her necessarily. I'm just going to, my understanding of it. And I have this book, it's my Bible. I have them in all formats. And I use them, I use it at least once a year. Go back to it and revisit. And as you saw, as I scrolled through, I have my own personal mapping that I will show you briefly, just to kind of see it in action when I get to a point of telling you kind of little tips and what you want, what tools, how to actually do it physically. So anyway, yes, so this is Saturn return, or rather Saturn transits through your chart, concluding with your first Saturn return, as mapped out as hero's journey, or your life. Saturn transits, all the same thing. Your life, Saturn transits, all the same thing, mapped out here as hero's journey, your hero's journey. So at the top we have the call to adventure, that's the MC. So as you can see, what's actually preceding okay, I'm gonna have to get my glasses. Okay, I have been talking for I don't know how long, thinking this was recording, and because I like what I've done up to now, I'm gonna leave it. So I think this is right. I think I'm gonna start from beginning here. So basically this is the astrological, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be repeating myself. If I'm, forgive me. So this is the astrological map of the hero's journey, because this is from the Bible that you must own, must buy. Erin Sullivan's book, Saturn in Transit, Boundaries of Mind, Body and Soul. I will leave the full name and her name in the description of this video for you to get, because if you're serious about figuring out your purpose and what it is that you're here to do, right, and be recognized for, and map out your own hero's journey, you want that book. It's an absolute, it keeps giving. It's so rich, it's so deep, it's so full of, it's so erudite, it's so amazing. It's an absolute gem. It's the one book I couldn't bear, that, you know, that and the other one I keep talking about, the Archetypal Universe, I think. Those are my absolute two go-to books. I revisit, I mean, well past my first, second return, Saturn return, I mean, but I keep revisiting this book at least once a year. It is just amazing. Every time Saturn touches anything of mine in my chart. So, Erin Sullivan's book, Saturn in Transit, Boundaries of Mind, Body and Soul, and this is from that book. So, essentially this is how astrologically speaking, Saturn is, you know, doing the hero's journey. And so she uses the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey model, if you like, and she transposes it on Saturn on top of that journey, and this is what it looks like. So as you will see here, amalgamation of skills and tools is the 9th house. So as Saturn goes through your 9th house, you're at the end of your journey, and essentially the struggle is the end of your journey before the new call to adventure happens. And so now the adventure is to basically share these treasures and to just show it to the world. And the struggle is to, this is the time when you're thinking, how do I present this to the world? How do I offer this to the world? Will the world want it? Will it, you know, will it need it? So that's partly the struggle here. And as it moves into the 10th, the world starts coming to you and starts recognizing and asking for those things that you have gathered up until this point in time. And but that's essentially the kind of, this last quadrant here is in many ways the most difficult I'm finding. Well, am I already there? Yeah, I am actually there now at the moment. But even before, when I look back on my first time around, this is almost like the most trying, in the sense that all this work and you got so much to offer, and it's been, you know, it's actually packaged. So there's nothing more to be done. You just need to now show it and offer it. It's funny because you have arrived at the end of your journey. So the giving of it isn't the adventure anymore. So the aspirations are that you accumulate the skill and the book, the tools, the skills and the tools. And yes, the aspiration is to kind of be recognized, but that happens, but you will feel the after the culmination, the descent starts, and yet it gets pretty dark when it goes below the ascendant. But between the 10th, the MC, and the ascendant, there is a definite sense that you're really preparing for something else, something new, something different. But you are still very much in the world, and you're sharing the treasures, and you know, whatever it is that you're doing basically. But you're preparing for disintegration as it comes to the 12th house to go into the first. So I could just remember the friend who I witnessed literally as the Saturn crossed her MC, and that was quite a few years ago, let's say 5 years ago. And she was an aspiring writer for decades, and all her life, and she's my age, so she's 50, a couple of years older, 53 now maybe. And she was starting to get recognized, to get deals, to become famous. And so I was with her, like she was in my life for a good couple of years as he was crossing. In fact, he was already getting into the 11th house of hers. And by the way, so in a sign, Saturn stays for up to 2.5 years, more or less, with all the retrograde and stuff. So two and a half years mostly. But I'll show you in a moment how you can find that out well and precisely. And because she was a friend, so she had almost like, as we all do, she had a public face, and then she had her private face that I knew, and we were very close. And it's almost like she was now dealing with a facet of this quadrant between 10th, 11th to 12th, 10th and 11th in particular. It's like something changes the moment we arrive, when the world starts using our gifts, or we share them. It's not, I don't mean use as in abuse, I just mean they take them, they use them, they appropriate them because we want to give it to them. Give them to them. And there is something in that dynamic that starts to stir a sense of like, okay, that's fine, but something is changing. That's not who I am. The dynamics that become prevalent in 10th and 11th house all of a sudden expose us to facets of ourselves that are just sometimes too shallow, too facade-like, and that's fine and that's necessary. But we can feel the stirrings of this new call to adventure, like almost like discontent, like a stirrings of some kind of discontent. Yes, it is success. Yes, I arrived at this amazing place and I'm getting all these accolades and money, even in her case, and all the rest. But there is a disquiet. There is something going on inside me, like brewing up to hearing something else, like a different drum beat is going on in the background, and she starts to dance involuntarily to it, but eventually kind of goes, okay, I'm just gonna embrace this rhythm and follow it. So I've lost touch with her for a while now, so I would imagine she's gone into first probably. So anyway, that's just an example, but okay, so let me pause there for a moment. So after Saturn crosses your ascendant, it starts its descent basically, and this phase I know particularly well because that's a time for my Saturn return, because my Saturn is on my ascendant, and he literally, and I speak of this always in the same way, same metaphor, the lights went off. My world became black and white, more kind of sepia, more greyish. Nothing drastic, nothing radical, but just all of a sudden the lights went off, and all that brightness, sunniness. So that was my Saturn return as well. But it's really because it was the descent, because where my Saturn is. So that's what I mean. It is about your Saturn return, and I still haven't touched on that, but I'm just briefly showing you how the journey basically. So if your Saturn return is anywhere else but on the ascendant, you'll have a slightly different experience possibly of your Saturn return. But the moment Saturn crosses your ascendant, you will be, so these are the sort of keywords that Erin Sullivan uses: ego death, shadow battle, rediscovering of the self happens in the first house while it's in the first. And again, I've seen this in my clients or just other people, that is so, and certainly in myself. It's like something, and I think Erin Sullivan uses quite dramatic words, which is why I love her style of writing. She's not pussyfooting around anything, which is quite intense, which I love. But and I think she talks about quite ordeal or something. So I don't know anyone going through an actual ordeal, but there is a serious sense that something is big, some sense of identity has been stripped off that you have. And this is what I was talking about, this friend who, if I was close to her, I'm sure, in touch with her now, she would, I'm sure, but she would be typically, stereotypically, or in terms of hero's journey, going through something, this identity that she was struggling with, of a public person that was taking away something of her creativity, and her work was now being stripped. And she could well be, I don't know, anyway, I'm not going to use her anymore as an example. I don't think it's working so well necessarily, certainly past ascendant. But yeah, your sense of who you are will definitely be stripped. Now, like me, I had Saturn return happening at the same time, so this was mega for me. But yeah, if you had Saturn return elsewhere, maybe not so loud and clear. But I would say so still. And basically, to wrap up, I'm not going to spend more detail on this. You have the book, and you have amazing book, absolutely beyond worth it's the money you pay, which is just normal price, I would imagine. I can't remember what years ago. Anyway, so this journey, the bottom part is essentially Persephone going into the hard, into the underworld, and that's how I viewed my life, certainly, and it certainly seemed like it. And at the bottom here, it's like death and rebirth, or atonement, as Erin Sullivan calls it, retrieval of the treasure. So this is usually family stuff, another set of identity kind of props and crutches we use, and it's to do with family and our roots and our heritage and our culture. And I certainly, when it was crossing there, it was mega changes and shifts in that area of my life and who I am. And it was like a death and rebirth, really, in well, like all these points are a death and rebirth in some sense. And then this is when it comes back up here to the descendant, that's the return. This is the point where you now have to face the world. So that's another super painful, for me certainly was absolutely excruciatingly painful to be with whoever I become up until, this journey. Now I have to face the world with this, and it was like life just threw stuff at me that I couldn't live my cozy, withdrawn life that I usually live otherwise, as I live in my 12th house mostly. But yeah, meaning astrologically speaking, 12th house, not 12th house on the end of my road, although it is actually. Sorry. Okay, so yes, so the struggle here is like, now I have to meet people and see, is this who I've become actually meetable? Is it presentable? Is it going to work in the society? Is it going to work in my relationships? And that's a whole, not just a video, that's a university degree on that topic, which I might one day even have. And then, so you're back into the world, and now you have to, that's a return. And this is something very important. I was told by someone super, let me just check, I'm actually recording this, yes. Wise, my guide, my mentor at one point in my life, he said that this is a critical point, and he probably studied and learned from Joseph Campbell maybe as well, and whoever, but that's not the point. The point is that it's all the work that we have done, all this amazing inner work we've done as the Saturn traversed the lower hemisphere of our chart will come to nothing and will be wasted if we do not return. This return is, so many lives get wasted because we do not return. We may return in form, we may return like we pretend, well, like we physically are present, we don't, this is not death, but we waste all the inner work, we hide it, we are too afraid of rejection, too afraid of rejection, and all other kind of things that are not, because usually what we'll discover during the underworld, Persephone in the underworld, is not pretty. It's not, it's not necessarily for, this is 7th house Libra, it's not for those refined, Libran tastes. archetypally speaking, obviously. And so it's like, do we refine it ourselves? How much do we refine it? We don't want to dilute it, but we end up usually diluting because we're just not versed in being different, and standing apart from each other. We keep wanting to merge and just come together and the rest. Anyway, and then you basically undergo rites of mystery, 8th house, and the amalgamation of the skills. So this is your test through the social experiment, as she calls it here. Creative development, etc. So, and then you come back to the end, Saturn comes back to the top of your chart again, and there's another call to adventure arriving your way. So, I want to talk in a moment about the actual Saturn return and the specifics of what to do about that. And but before I do that, I just want to, give you this. This is the book Saturn in Transit: Boundaries of Mind, Body and Soul by Erin Sullivan. You must get this book. It's an absolute must. If you want to work with your Saturn, if you want to understand your Saturn, and by understanding your Saturn, you will understand yourself. In a way, Saturn is the most accessible, yet the wisest, most formative planet archetype you can never waste time. Listen to this language, waste time. You cannot waste time with Saturn. By studying your Saturn and getting cozy with your Saturn, you are investing in yourself. Yes, Pluto, yes, what else? Let's say, well, Venus and all the rest, all these lovely planets and archetypes, and I'm not dissing them, but really, you really want to be studying and understanding your Saturn, because, and now I'm coming to the Saturn return, your Saturn is teaching you about the rest of your chart, about the rest of your archetypes, your planets. So this is where Saturn return comes into it. Essentially, by the time Saturn returned to its natal place, let me go back to this visual, I prefer it. These are mine, I'll show you in a moment what they are. By the time Saturn returned to its to the place, your natal position basically, he has been and touched every single planet by conjunction, and by other aspects, but by conjunction are particularly potent times to understand the archetype. So this is what you want to do. By mapping out your Saturn return, and even if you are not even anywhere near it, or if you're way past it like me, or anywhere in between, it's never too late, and it's always useful, and it's always do it wherever you are on this timeline. You should do it and it's a lot of work, but it's and I'll show you in a moment how to set it up so it's like it lasts you your lifetime. So first you want to get yourself an extra large, this is my own extra large moleskin book that's here by me. It's just been there forever with me, and it's dedicated to your Saturn. Get a big A4 at least of these extra large moleskins. I mean, I'm a sucker for moleskins, and it's kind of even the same quantity probably of paper pages and surfaces to write on as an A4. It's just, I prefer the feel and everything of it, and dedicated to your Saturn return. So you want to start with your natal chart, have it at the front of this notebook, and that's or even at the front, like a cover. This is me basically. So this is the wheel that I showed you. I drew it, but what I've done, and I'll show you another one which is far more specific. So I wrote down, see Saturn conjunct my Sun. It's in the first, and then those are the years. The lesson vulnerability is a strength. That certainly was my lesson. I don't know whether I wrote that down as my own. That was my own lesson, or maybe that's from Erin's book, I'm not sure. And then I go 2001, 2003 is while it was in the second house, incorporating resources. So I know what was going on in my life during that time, and then I have the rest of this book to then, journal about the rest and lessons learned and all the rest, yeah. But also this is what's important. This is what was happening. So it was sextiling my Venus. I mean, I'd never, but it's oppositions and conjunctions are and squares obviously, but conjunctions first, then oppositions, because in terms, particularly if you're looking back, oppositions are far more memorable because it's usually other people that kind of stood in your way and went, oi, what are you doing? Where it's a square, it's a crisis as well, but it's, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. Square or oppositions are equal, I suppose, maybe. But I kind of felt maybe oppositions are easier to remember. Anyway, and then the rest. So you basically draw a circle, your chart. So this is how I've done my chart. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Now this I spent probably a month working with. I wish I see how all this has all been. See there how it's. So basically this is my chart, my placements, or rather it's not even my placements. I know what's in my first, so I'm going here, Saturn conjunct July 1999, because I have Sun in 15 degree and then Mercury 6 degrees, so then it's Saturn conjunct Mercury June 2009. So I wish at the time I did this all, like I say, prettier, but essentially you want to have a big spread. This is an outside, like a huge poster thing I have still with me, and because it's not as pretty, I don't hang it up. But basically it's my chart, like I say, so all your planets are there, and then you map out when Saturn was going on. So these are like the times, when I was working certain places or doing whatever I was doing during that time to understand what was going on. And then obviously as I map this out, I read everything there is to read about Saturn opposite Mars, and to then relay that and understand, put it against what was going on in my life. What less have I done that right? Am I recording this time? Have I done it right? What lessons have I missed of Mars? What lessons can I now learn even better looking back, thinking back of that time? So if you've already gone past your Saturn return, this is still a fabulous exercise to do. And like I say, it's a lengthy thing, but dedicate a notebook to it. It will be worth every cent, every drop of sweat that you have, spilt over this. So I think the last thing I want to show you is basically, so this is for, as you know, I'm not for beginners. I really, every time I sometimes think, can I have a video on just like aspects? No, I literally been doing this since I was a teenager. Can't even remember how I just read every day, and eventually you just get so familiar with, you just look at the chart and you know exactly what aspects there are, even without seeing, the numbers of the degrees and all that. So I wouldn't have a clue how to teach that, if you like. But what I wanted to show you is something else. I mean, obviously you can just, this is what I've done since the time of the internet, which was not always in my life. So you basically just Google how to find your aspects if you, and just, there are plenty of things out there if you're struggling. But if you kind of know and understand what those are, so for instance, if you have, let's say you have Venus in Aquarius, so you want to know when Saturn, okay, it's not the best example, but still, let's say, so you do Saturn in signs years, Google Saturn in signs years, you want to understand what Saturn did when when Saturn conjunct one of your planets. So you'd go Saturn in signs years, let's say, is a good term to Google. And Cafe Astrology is always a great place to do that, with, fantastic resources. And basically, so let's say you have Venus in Aries. There we are. So obviously you have whatever age you are. Then you go, when did Saturn conjunct your Venus? So it would have been 1998 or 1999. So then for precision, obviously, because you want to know exactly when it happened, you go to Google again, and so it's 1998, although you have 1999 and I think it was 2000 or whatever. So let's say you pick one of the years, and then I always choose astro.com You sometimes could be at the further down, but here it's first thing you get. So you click on that and you get the ephemeris. Now this is in my Google thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So my point here is then, this is the ephemeris of that. I don't know how to define ephemeris. It's basically all those planets like Sun, Moon, you can see here, yeah? Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the nodes, the other Lilith, not the one I work with, Chiron, are all there. So they're literally day by day, their movement. And this is just an incredible database on astro.com. It's like thousands of years, I think. Oh, it's just unbelievable. Anyway, so Saturn, 13 Aries. So let's say your Venus is on, I don't know, let's say 24, yeah? 24 Aries, and you scroll down. So this one is 13. So watch for the retrograde phase. If it was 13 and then it had an R there, letter R for retrograde, then it means that the rest of those will be going 13, 12, 11, 10. So you might want to, go back to 1999 or whatever. But anyway, you just scroll down. You'll get used to it to kind of figure this out. And it's 24. And then you look at the exact minute. So this is a 24 degree, but maybe yours is 3 minutes or maybe it's 7 minutes. If it's 7 minutes, 24, then you go across. You see that's the 19th of, what month is that? April. So it's 19th of April, 20th. And if you're 24/7, 24 degrees 7 minutes of Aries, you have Venus there. And Saturn is 24 degrees 3 minutes at midnight. This is always midnight of 19th of April. And then midnight of 20th of April is at 10 minutes. That means that on 19th of April was the exact conjunction. So this is one way of doing it. There is a way on astro.com. Let me see if I can quickly get that up. No, I can't actually. Sorry, won't be able to do it on the phone. It's basically just changing the dates but I find this, personally, I've worked with this, and happily, and maybe just my style of learning, but yeah, I enjoyed working like this. And I saved them. I have them all in my PDF, my Adobe Acrobat, I think all the years since my birth, 1969. So, however, 51 at least ephemeris I have saved in my own drive, so I don't have to keep Googling. So as you discover, jotting these dates down, and sometimes, I go by the year. I mean, I'm not fussed, especially because it goes retrograde. I don't necessarily always go by for conjunctions, I probably actually do go as close to the date as I can. And sometimes I have no record, of that. I have written journals all my life, but still there are gaps. So, and some I seem to have lost anyway. But basically what you want is to have a chart and just your actual natal placements, and then, in a different color or something, just map out what time of the year, in what time, right? Year, date, that planet was touched by Saturn. So you have conjunction next to it, or then, whenever the square, I would write like I've written down here. So here, Saturn was squaring my Saturn in Leo, because my Saturn is in Taurus, but I didn't write it next to my actual Saturn. So I wrote where Saturn was, and then I wrote that it was square my natal Saturn. So visually that makes more sense to me, but it's up to you. So this is the stage, I don't know, 1 or 2. You have everything written down. Your natal chart and all the transits that Saturn has made since your birth to all your planets. Like I say, conjunction first, opposition squares second, and have a look at the rest, obviously, but I'm only kind of personally usually also mostly focusing on those. And so you have all your data now, and now is the time to journal. And that's why you want a very thick big book that you can, in fact I have quite I'll probably have 2 in total that are dedicated to Saturn. And it's it's, like I say, worth every cent and every drop of sweat. And then you journal, remembering those times, how you felt. And with Erin Sullivan's book, she doesn't ask questions in a sort of coaching sense at all, but some stuff will be prompted, and all these themes that she talks about, essential self, shadow, battle, ego death. What, when it was in your first, what kind of ego deaths have you been experiencing? Just turn these things into questions, and then off you go. Journal to your heart's delight. And the last piece is the books. I just want to show you the books that are fantastic to teach you about Saturn. Now, these are not about Saturn return necessarily, although I think I have one on Saturn return, but they're just to understand your Saturn. And so Saturn, A New Look at an Old Devil, by Liz Green, is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Saturn, Spiritual Master, Spiritual Friend, by Robert Wilkinson. Saturn, Time, Heritage and Substance, by Melanie Reinhardt. Astrology and the Rising Kundalini, by Barbara Hand Claw. The Little Book of Saturn, by Lisa Einhorn, right? And this is Tom Jacobs. I mention him often. This is just on Saturn returns. I think he has a book on Saturn as well, but this is just on Saturn returns, and I thought I'd include that. But yeah, just check him out. And the other ones that are really good to, the ones that usually come, obviously the Archetypal Universe by Ren Butler, but also astrofix.net and Michelle Fallis. I mentioned him in the other one of my videos, where she has like pairings of planets. So that's irrespective of which is why I love her style, irrespective of the aspect, when they're touching in whatever aspect, i.e. when they're making an aspect, you use her book, because it gives you good and bad and everything in between, if you like. And yes, so to wrap up on Saturn return, meaning when it completes the journey through your chart, it has taught you a level. So it's like a spiral. You have another Saturn going around, and then again. So there are always lessons, but this is the first lot of lessons that you want to then build on. And you will, as you go through life, you will see, sticking with the Saturn and Venus story, you will see that. Sorry, let me just have this Bible here in front of you. There'll be a whole new set of lessons about relationships, but do build on what you learned, or even if you were not conscious of it at the time. And obviously, usually we start looking into these things, particularly in this thorough, intentional way later in life. But it doesn't matter. It's never too late. You can always revisit those times and just learn those lessons now. With the longer it's been gone, the time has gone, the more wisdom you have gathered, or the more potential wisdom you have gathered. So you can never. It's never too late. It really isn't. It's never too late. And even if it's, like I say, retrospective, and then you just learn. You build on that. You really start to be intentional about your relationships. So as it's approaching, then plan. Like have another sort of set of charts where you're planning. So it's like a future. When are these happening? So that's another one. I don't think I have a way of doing this now, but I'm literally looking at a screen, and like in front of me I have a map up until I have 15 years, some major transits, and this is usually Uranus and big ones, not little ones necessarily. Progressions as well are important when you have a big story arc. But in front of me right now, up until 24, I have my solar returns, and I have my big calendar. Well, I only have a calendar till end of next year, but still, I have all the transits. So it's like, not just Saturn, but definitely Saturn as well. So yeah, do that as well. Plan ahead. Well, not plan, like just prepare yourself. Be intentional. Work with those energies. Work with those. Based on what you learned first time around. That's essentially the point of mapping out your Saturn return. And just to wrap up, why do any of this, which maybe, would have been at the beginning more appropriate. But essentially, Saturn is our idea of success. So there are two things here. There is a 10th house and there is Saturn. Now, 10th house and Capricorn. So you could have them all three in 10th house, like Saturn and in Capricorn in 10th house. Then this won't apply to you. You'll be the lucky one in terms of success, in terms of wrapping up kind of the two coming together for you. But if you have Saturn elsewhere, other than on your MC, on top of your chart, so if you have Saturn here, as it's showing sort of here, right? Saturn and MC, then and in Capricorn, then your idea of success is what other people see as well and want from you. Clearly, it's like your idea of success is what others need from you. You know how people say success is found when what you have to offer meets what people need? Well, if you have this aspect, that Saturn in Capricorn on MC, or in other sign but on MC, it can be another sign, but as long as Saturn is on MC in your chart, this will happen for you more easily. It's like, because what you love, what is your idea of success, is also what people are happy to pay you for. You see? And that's what I meant by you're lucky. Hold on, I need to. But if your Saturn is elsewhere, then you will still have MC. So MC is what other people, what the public wants from you. Yeah? But your Saturn is what you want from yourself. So study your Saturn wherever it is, particularly if it's not on your MC, to understand your idea of success, the kind of success that will give you deepest fulfillment, that will realize, Saturn word, right, your dreams and your vision. So this is something I don't think is talked about often, and I certainly plan to talk more about it on other platforms of mine. Yeah, that's such an important distinction to make when you study your Saturn. So to understand what gives you a sense of fulfillment, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of purpose, look to your Saturn. But your Saturn could be, like in my case, hence struggling with this topic for all my life, it could be in 12th house. So it's like this is a video in its own right and time, but it's so far away and far out there that it's not about public recognition in the 10th house sense. So anyway, so it could be wherever it is, right? And it's then what else is conjunct, and what other kind of aspects is got. It's sort of triggers or crises that will refine you, your idea of success, refine you so you succeed better and all that, but succeed on your own terms. So your Saturn tells you how you will succeed on your own terms. But this may well not be, especially if it's not on the MC, your MC, this may well not be what the rest of the world is happy to pay you, or is happy to even ask for, or take from you, or needs from you. That's the thing. It doesn't need it from you. Your world most likely will not need your Saturn unless it's on your MC. This is a big one. Sit with this a little bit. Definitely journal on this and see what it taught you as it went around until it reached its natal position, and onwards. And with that, I wrap up this lengthy video, and I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed it. I'll see you next week.